July 6, 2019, Jeffrey Epstein was arrested on federal charges for the sex trafficking of minors in Florida, New York, and his private island, Little St. James. A little over a month later, on August 10th, he was found hanging in his jail cell. Over the next 6 years, there has been much speculation on whether he actually killed himself, who was on his client list, and whether he had blackmailed any important people. Apparently, now we have the answers to all of these questions.
Free at last! Free at last! Thank God Almighty! We are free at last! Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
You're not hurting anybody with force, fraud, coercion, theft, or violence. Your life is your life, your body is your body, your business is your business, and your property is your property. It's not mine, and it sure as hell is not the federal government's.
Jeffrey Edward Epstein, born in 1953, was an American financier and convicted sex offender, known for his connections to high-profile individuals and vast sex trafficking network involving underage girls. Born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, Epstein showed early academic promise, excelling in mathematics. Despite not completing a college degree, he began his career as a physics and mathematics teacher at the elite Dalton School in Manhattan. Later, he transitioned into the financial sector. Epstein quickly rose through the ranks in banking and finance, eventually establishing his own firms, including J. Epstein and Company. He became known for managing the wealth of billionaires, most notably retail magnate Leslie Wexner, which contributed to Epstein's immense fortune and luxurious lifestyle. He acquired multiple residences, including a mansion in Manhattan, an estate in Palm Beach, Florida, and 2 private islands in the U.S. Virgin Islands, Little St. James and Great St. James. In 2005, police in Palm Beach, Florida began investigating Epstein after a report of sexual abuse involving a 14-year-old girl led to his controversial 2008 plea deal, where he was convicted of procuring a child for prostitution and soliciting a prostitute. The deal allowed him to serve a mere 13 months in custody, with extensive work release sparking widespread criticism. Despite being a registered sex offender, Epstein continued to associate with numerous prominent figures, including politicians, celebrities, and royalty. In 2019, Epstein was arrested again on federal charges of sex trafficking and conspiracy to commit sex trafficking in Florida, New York, and his private island, Little St. James. The indictment and subsequent information from victims and investigations made it clear that Little St. James was a central location for his criminal activities, where underage girls were allegedly brought for sexual abuse by Epstein and his associates. While awaiting trial in a Manhattan jail, he died in his cell on August 10, 2019. His death was ruled a suicide by hanging, though has been the subject of persistent public skepticism and conspiracy theories. On July 7, 2025, a joint review by the Department of Justice and FBI was released and concluded that Epstein's death was a suicide by hanging on August 10, 2019, while he was in custody at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York City. A systematic review of all digital and physical evidence related to Epstein's case found no incriminating client list. It found that no credible evidence that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals as part of his actions, nor did it uncover evidence that could lead to investigations against uncharged third parties. The DOJ and FBI stated that no further disclosure of Epstein-related materials would be appropriate or warranted. The review confirmed that Epstein harmed over 1,000 victims, each enduring unique trauma, and emphasized that combating child exploitation and bringing justice to victims remains a high priority. I'm going to leave the suicide finding aside for now, but let's talk about the systematic review of all digital and physical evidence. From 2019 until July 25, it was fairly common knowledge that there was a client list with a large amount of important names on it, possibly including Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, Prince Andrew, Ghislaine Maxwell, Alan Dershowitz, Michael Jackson, and Kevin Spacey, just to name a few. Now, I see a common thread among a lot of the people listed here. Bill Clinton was accused of having an improper physical relationship with an intern in the Oval Office, which he at first denied.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
And later admitted to.
Indeed, I did have a relationship with Miss Lewinsky that was not appropriate.
Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's long-term associate and former girlfriend, was convicted of sex trafficking and conspiracy.
Prosecutors say that she recruited and groomed 4 girls between 1994 and 2004 for Epstein, her longtime associate and former boyfriend.
Prince Andrew had a close friendship with Epstein, facilitated by Maxwell. He faced a civil lawsuit from a victim alleging sexual abuse, which he settled out of court.
So today, court papers were lodged by the Prince's lawyers in New York. His formal response required in the case to allegations made by his accuser.
Alan Dershowitz is a lawyer who was part of Epstein's legal team. He has also faced accusations from an Epstein victim, which he denies. Kevin Spacey has been accused multiple times of making unwanted sexual advances toward many people. He has been tried twice, but was found not liable in New York and acquitted in London. However, his name appeared in flight logs of Epstein's private jet. In a recent interview, Spacey recounted a flight with Epstein and Maxwell that also included Bill Clinton and mentioned that there were young girls on those flights.
Do you know who I never asked for anything? Was Jeffrey Epstein. I didn't want to be around this guy because I felt he put the president at risk on that trip to South Africa because there were these young girls. And we were like, who is this guy? So I will say this.
There were young girls on those flights.
There were young girls on those flights, yeah.
All of these people have been accused, convicted, or admitted to sexual misconduct, and all have been connected with Jeffrey Epstein, at least socially. If Epstein was guilty of what he is accused of, these connections begin to look pretty suspicious. Now they say there is no client list, but I could see that being mostly true. But there are still documents that have not been released, such as flight logs, that some of the above people have admitted to being included in. If these flight logs show who was going to and from Epstein's private island, how would showing the American people these documents be inappropriate and unwarranted? Let's take a look at Epstein's 2008 arrest and subsequent plea deal. The investigation into Jeffrey Epstein began in 2005 when a parent reported to the Palm Beach Police Department that Epstein had sexually abused her 14-year-old daughter. This led to a joint state and federal investigation which uncovered evidence that Epstein had been sexually exploiting numerous underage girls, some as young as 14, at his Palm Beach mansion and other locations. Federal officials ultimately identified 36 girls whom Epstein had allegedly abused. He was arrested in Florida in 2006. He faced state charges including felony solicitation of prostitution and procuring persons under 18 for prostitution. Instead of a full trial, Epstein's legal team, including prominent lawyers, negotiated a highly controversial non-prosecution agreement with federal prosecutors from the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of Florida, led then by U.S. Attorney Alexander Acosta. This deal allowed Epstein to avoid federal charges and a potentially much longer prison sentence. Under the terms of the 2008 plea deal, he would plead guilty in state court to the 2 state charges, solicitation of prostitution and procurement of a minor for prostitution. He was sentenced to 18 months in the county jail, followed by 12 months of community control, house arrest. He only served less than 13 months of his 18-month jail sentence due to gain time off for good behavior, and a work release program that allowed him to leave the jail for significant periods during the day, purportedly to work at his Florida Science Foundation, an entity co-located at one of his attorney's offices. He was required to register as a sexual offender, a designation he would keep for life. The agreement also included provisions for victims to obtain monetary damages, though many victims later claimed they were not adequately informed or consulted about the deal. A key element to the federal non-prosecution agreement was that it granted immunity from federal prosecution not only to Epstein, but also to 4 named co-conspirators and any potential co-conspirators in the Southern District of Florida related to the conduct that was subject of the joint investigation. With that in mind, I want to circle back to whether he hung himself or not. And if he did hang himself, did he know that he had gone too far this time? The 2 sides of the argument are as follows. He hung himself because he knew his goose was cooked and that he was not going to get another cushy plea deal, so he took the easy way out. Alternatively, someone snuck into his cell and hung him because important people would be implicated and exposed if his federal case went to trial. Additionally, some people believe he was persuaded by powerful individuals to kill himself to prevent a trial from happening. I think that Epstein's death is really the crucial point of this whole situation. Whether he committed suicide willingly, was coerced into committing suicide, or was murdered, you can't prosecute a dead man. With the review's findings that it was a suicide, the federal sex trafficking charges are officially dismissed. If they had concluded his death was of a suspicious nature or that he had been murdered, an investigation would have been launched. But further prosecution on Epstein's federal sex trafficking charges still could not begin against him, as he would still be dead. So regardless of Epstein's manner of death, his death ended all possibilities for the full truth to fully come out. If Epstein was connected more than just socially to powerful people in our government, it worked out pretty conveniently for them. I will let you draw your own conclusions from there.